Under the same moon, we share the love. Embracing the differences like hand in glove. Spreading peace and joy, it's a beautiful sight. Together we shine in each other's light. United we stand in love's pure mind. Watching the world share in love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. Colors of harmony painting the night. United we stand in love's pure mind.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in to Watching the World. We have so much to cover this week, where the reporting about the hot topics meet the law each week on Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as well as Central Time at 7 p.m. We're blessed to have a criminal defense attorney by the name of Calvin Johnson. He religiously come on to help us break down what's really happening from a legal standpoint as we cover these cases. As many of you may know, and I'm quite thankful, yesterday we had 143,000 people come through and support the channel as we covered the No Kings. The No Kings has been expressed throughout the entire nation, but I focus on New York, my home state. So we're going to get to that as well as many other stories. But without any further holdback, we're going to have our criminal defense attorney, Calvin Johnson. Calvin, welcome to the platform.
Welcome back, Mel. Welcome back. Nice seeing you again.
Yes, indeed. Nice to see you as well. So, could you tell everyone who you are and where they can find you?
My name is Attorney Calvin D. Johnson. I am a criminal defense attorney mainly in Dallas, Texas. I've been practicing for almost 25 years. I do local, state, and federal criminal defense. I also have a nonprofit foundation called Sarin Foundation that we work with, and I have handled several federal cases. I've handled several state cases involving a number of issues, including RICO, as well as I am a former city council candidate. So when it gets into politics and law, I have about 25 years of experience doing both. I can be reached at one of these three ways. At my website at theywon'tletmeout.com. I can be reached by email at attorneycalvindjohnson@gmail.com, or I can be reached at 214-565-5600, and that's our phone number. And I have been working with Mel the last 5 months, and we do this thing called the weekly legal review, and we broadcast every Sunday night, 7 p.m. Texas time, 8 p.m. New York time. So come on and check us out and learn some stuff about the law. Don't go to these YouTube channels where you got ex-cons on there thinking that they can do what the lawyers do. You get some real legal advice here from me and Mel, so let's roll.
So before we get started, you predicted Sean Diddy Combs' time to a T, pretty much 50 months, which boiled down exactly what you prophesied, we'll say. What did you think? We didn't hear any more from the ex-cons that came after you.
Man, I even went on those channels and actually commented on YouTube's, and they have not said a word. And they know they can't say a word because they don't do what I do. And what I try to explain to people, and I could have went in on them when they were on the show, but I don't want to try to belittle people. At the end of the day, I'm an experienced attorney. I've handled thousands of cases. I'm almost in my 25th year of doing this. And when you look at somebody like myself, even before I went to college and law school, right? Even before I went and did those things, I went and graduated from the High School for Public Services, Government and Law. So I went to a magnet school here in Dallas, Texas, focused on government and law. So I have been, since the age of about 13 all the way to 53, the last 40 years, I kind of knew that I was going to be doing this. And for the last 25 years, I've been a licensed attorney. People have to understand, when you're taking advice from YouTube, that's YouTube. That's not real. Do you know what you got to do to become a lawyer in Texas or even in New York? First thing you have to do is you have to go finish high school. You have to go and finish college. And then once you finish college, you have to take this thing called the LSAT. And it's not an easy test to master. I mean, it tests your logic. You sit there for 4 or 5 hours taking the LSAT test. Then you got to get into law school. And when you get into law school, that's another process. You have to have letters of recommendation. You have to have a college degree. You have to have a high LSAT score to get into a good school. I have all those things. Then in addition to that, once you go to law school for your 3 years, if you get past the first year, because everybody doesn't make it past the first year, some people ask not to come back. Of course, I was not one of those. But once you get out of law school, you have to take this thing called the Texas bar. And of course, if you're in New York, you have to take the New York bar. And how many times have you heard of people failing the bar exam? Many times, right, Mel?
Yeah, many times.
You know how many times I took the bar exam? Yes. Once. That's right. I'm a one-hitter quitter. I don't have time for that. I knew what the hell I was doing, knew what the hell I was talking about, knew what the hell I was taught, and I know how to think. So with that being said, I'm a person who took the bar exam, Texas bar, first time, passed it, didn't have to retake it, automatically licensed, automatically jumped out there on my own and started my own law office. So not only did I pass the bar on my first try, I jumped in the water straight from the rip and opened my own law office. A lot of people don't even do that. You got to know what the hell you're doing when you start doing that kind of stuff. And you have to understand not just the law, but all of the combined surrounding factors that lead to sentencing, to judges, to their tendencies, to what they're thinking, to the evidence. And you got to figure out, based on the environment and based on all of those things that exist, what you think is going to happen. And to get into federal court, you know what you have to do, Mel?
What's that?
What you have to do, number one, you have to be licensed and a licensed attorney in Texas for at least 3 to 5 years. If you have not been licensed that long, typically you can't get into federal court. In addition to that, you also have to be sponsored. I mean, somebody has to sponsor you to go in, and you have to set an appointment and get approved by a sitting federal judge, right? Right? You know how I got approved?
How?
My paralegal herself used to work for the city of Dallas attorney, a guy named Sam Lindsay. Do you know what Sam Lindsay is right now?
Where?
He's our only African-American federal judge down here in Texas, down here in the Texas, Dallas area, Dallas, Plano area, okay? So I got sworn in by Sam Lindsay. I didn't have to get in line and I didn't have to wait like everybody else. I got called to his office, got sat down, got interviewed, and automatically, based on my resume, based on my background, and based on my knowledge, I was automatically sworn in to be able to go to federal court. You have to know what you're doing. You cannot get on YouTube and just because you went and did time, go predict how much time somebody's going to get. I was even listening to some people try to predict Diddy's time, and they were talking about 12 months, 18 months. And in addition to that, after that, he's only going to do 1 year of federal probation. 1 year of federal probation never happens. It's always at least 3 up to 5. And the minute that those guys start talking about that, I understood based on what they were saying that they did not know what the hell that they were talking about. So you got to get some good legal advice when you're in trouble. You don't want to put yourself in a situation where you're listening to guys on the internet that do not know what they're talking about. Come to the weekly legal review or seek good established counsel. Just because somebody did some time in the feds does not mean that they should be telling you what you should be doing or how much time somebody else is going to get.
Okay, so with your powerful background, could you perhaps tell us where are the Epstein files?
Man, you know what? They are distracting us from those. We got so much else going on. When you think about it, you got the No Kings protest. You got situations where the government is shut down. There's so much going on right now. We can't even worry about Epstein right now.
Right. It's so scary, right? So let's talk about the first big subject of the night. That's going to be Donald Trump in relation to this peace deal that he made between Israel and Palestine. Tell us, what do you think about that?
Well, first of all, anytime that somebody does something historic like that, man, you got to give a man credit. Whether you like him or not, whether you like his methods or not, he is kind of stern. And when he says he's going to do something, for the most part, when it comes to using his power, he's going to do that. So I think that both sides kind of understood that they did not want to get sideways with him and draw the ire of the American president. I think it was a good job of using your power and using the fact that they also know that you're kind of unpredictable. If you get sideways with Mr. Trump in one way or the other, things could really, really go bad for you. So, and I think both sides knowing that, I think both sides wanted to make a deal. And you give credit where credit due, man. He got it done. And let's see if it sticks, and if it's holds, then that's a great thing.
Some people are saying that there are different motives at play here. Perhaps they're setting this up as a ruse to go in later for a genocide. You have any thoughts about that?
People can say that, but let's be honest, man. You got to make the attempt, right? You have to make the attempt to make sure that there's peace in the Middle East when it comes to Gaza. And all he is doing is attempting to do what everybody else has tried to do and failed at doing. And I think you got to give him credit for that. And yeah, there are going to be risks no matter what we do. There's going to be some risk of some things, but you just got to try it, man. It's better to try what he's doing than to do nothing.
Right. Well, when you factor in the Bible, a lot of this stemmed back 3,000 years ago or more. A lot of it's because the Bible says that the Israelites would have from the river to the sea, and Gaza would be in the way. So is there a way for anyone to stop what's already in motion from the Bible? Israel wants them wiped out.
And see, that's what I get concerned about. I mean, is this a temporary stoppage? Will they move? Will they quietly move? Will they betray Mr. Trump and the parameters that he set for this deal? I just don't know. I don't know how viable this peace plan is going to be. But I will tell you, when you tell Mr. Trump something and you go do something behind his back, he's not going to take kindly to it. And I think that the Israelis as well as the Palestinians understand that. And with that being said, there might just be enough fear on each side to make them actually at least hold their line to have some kind of peace for a few years.
Do you think Donald Trump overplayed his hand by making it seem that he has a solid peace deal? He's mentioning words like eternal. You think that's scary business?
I think it's really scary business. The reason why I say it's really scary business, because I want y'all to think about this. When it comes to them, we've seen things hold for a year or two. We've seen things hold for a month or two. But it's very combustible, and all it takes is escalation, and then all bets are off the table. Mr. Trump probably needs to be a lot more careful when it comes to peace. Yes, we have some peace for now, but to say it's eternal, eternal out there is a year. Eternal out there is a couple of years maybe. But when you say you got peace eternally, that thing can turn on a dime because they've been fighting for centuries.
They've already started to exchange some fire in the last 24 hours. What do you think about that?
I'm concerned that if it's going to hold or not. And once again, like I said before, sometimes this thing will hold, sometimes it won't. We just don't know. We just don't know, because when you have enemies that are sworn biblical enemies, you have a problem. I mean, you have different religions. You got that area is just, it's so broken up. You got, not only do you have different religions, you have subsects of religions who don't even like each other, and they're in the same religion. So there's a lot of different parties involved in that situation, and you have to be extremely careful when you deal with that.
Right. Some of Hamas did a public execution of other gang members, according to what Donald Trump says, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of people in MAGA are saying, well, why aren't the Democrats showing any concern about that?
You know what? I think number one, everybody is playing the politics of it all. And I think that we got to be careful even when we start talking about that, because you got people on the Democratic and Republican side, they're going to maximize and minimize the positives and negatives of this to be able to go where they want to go with it. And I just think that you have to be careful either way. I just want to see how this holds. But I think Mr. Trump definitely needs to be a lot more measured.
Yeah, yesterday I covered the No Kings in New York. I saw a lot of signs that many of the left, as they would say, are saying that Donald Trump is basically doesn't know what he's doing. What do you think about that? No,
my attitude toward him is extremely different than most people. And even though I think that some of the things he's doing definitely is good, I still think that he's a lot smarter than people give him credit for. I mean, you don't last in business as long as you have without understanding power and how to use power. Mr. Trump has had a history, and some people say a failed history in business, but he has been able to survive all the way to this point to where he's not flat broke, and he has plenty of money based on what he tells us, so that he is a smart enough man to definitely understand how to navigate things. And so when people try to say he doesn't know what he's doing and he doesn't understand how democracy works, and I don't believe that. I think he damn well understands how it works. He just uses it to his advantage. He's very smart when it comes to that. And people don't want to admit that. I was talking to somebody earlier today, and they were just like, "Oh, he's low IQ." No, he's not low IQ. When you think about what he has been able to do, become president of the United States, to be able to bounce back from all of those failed businesses. And some people will say, "Well, what methods did he use to do that?" Either way, he's here. He's still standing. He's president of the United States again. And so somebody like that, you can't take lightly. You have to give them some kind of credit for their intellect. And when it comes to that, and when it comes to having a stern hand, Mr. Trump does have that.
When Mr. Trump took over the presidency for the second time around, he started off by talking about TikTok, and he said that basically China and their influence with the company was stealing information and all sorts of bad things about China. But now we're starting to hear from Netanyahu that actually they were the ones pushing and to buy TikTok because people were actually seeing things on TikTok happening in Gaza, and that caused the younger generation to start to turn against Israel. So it wasn't primarily a China issue. It looks like it might be a Israel issue. What do you think?
It could be very well that, and that's what people have to understand. Though he who controls the information can control the people, and I think that they're very honest about understanding that, right? So if I can control TikTok, I can control the narrative. If I can control the narrative, I may be able to control big swaths of people, and that's one thing that I can understand about the Republicans. And whether you like Trump or not, I can't vote for him. I can't be for him based on the way that I am, in terms of I stand on foundational values. And I think that he's a very opportunistic man. But with that being said, sometimes you need an opportunistic man to be in power. But I have some concerns about the way he conducts himself. And when it comes to democracy, and he is the kind of guy that is willing to do any and everything to win, to get what he wants. And I definitely understand that. You know, some people get in their feelings about whether they like him or not. I just don't. I look at it from a very analytical point of view. And I think that you got to be extremely careful when it comes to him. When you say, "Oh, he's low IQ, he's a criminal, he's not, he's this, he's that." He's extremely opportunistic. And at the end of the day, you better start understanding that he knows what he is doing. He's very calculated about what he does. And in some instances, there's some people in our country that love the fact that he is calculated. They love the fact that he will drop a hammer on people from time to time. And you definitely have to understand the psyche of those people if you're going to try to combat that, to try to maintain some sense of democracy. And that's just what it comes down to. People have to get out their feelings, and they really got to start thinking analytically about what they want. And if they're going to somehow oppose Mr. Trump, they need to be very, very analytical about it, as opposed to emotional about it.
In the Bible, in the Hebrew scriptures, we have Israel, and they're God's chosen people, right? Mm-hmm. But then when you get to the Greek scriptures, that's where Christianity is developed, right? Yes. So often Christians associate themselves with Israel because of how the Bible is actually laid out, right?
Yes.
So I say that to say this. Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, they were certified Christians, but they started to turn on Israel when they saw all the bombs dropping and the babies and so forth losing their lives, right?
Yes.
Were you surprised to see that? I
wasn't surprised to see that, because I think that this is the dichotomy of the Bible for some people. You got people on the right that use it to basically stake their claim to Christianity being for them. And then you got those same people that use it to go out and do certain things and to push certain policies. When I say that, is it biblical for somebody to kill babies, to drop bomb on babies? to do certain things, and when it comes to people and genocides and those types of things. There are many of us who feel that the Bible does not support that kind of behavior. And then the other side at times will say, well, the Bible is not for the weak. And Christians have went to war with people before. And in war, some people are going to get hurt and some people are going to get killed. And so what you have is that this dichotomy of, number one, people using the Bible the way that they want to use it, when they want to use it, when it supports what they're doing. And then they want to point to the Bible when they see the other side is doing something that they don't like that they're doing. They will point to areas of the Bible to say that they shouldn't be doing it. And I think that is where we have this dichotomy. And when you have some people who initially were on the sides of the Israelis, when they see certain things that they deem not to be biblical and that they will not go for, that's where you have your issues. Okay,
one of the great viewers comments, Zap1 says the Bible does not support that behavior.
And see, that's exactly what I'm saying. And I believe that. I mean, I don't believe that the Bible does support that behavior. And see, that's where you have a lot of people that are really, really Christian folks. They say, hey, that isn't what the Bible speaks of, and that's not what you should be going for. That's not what you should be doing. But once again, I'm a different kind of person when it comes to Christianity and politics. I put my Christianity above politics, which means I do not put the Republican Party or the Democratic Party above me being a follower of Christ. And I think that when you got a lot of people right now that they use their politics to identify with their faith and their Christianity. And I think that's where you're going to lose out. There is gotten to a point where some Democrats feel like they are the beholders of Christianity, and some of the Republicans feels like that they are the beholder of Christianity. And I do not think that God intended for any political party to be above him. And I think when people start to do that, and I think those on the left and the right do it, and I think that's where you have your problem.
Okay. I'd like to take a moment and tell everyone who's here, please hit the like button, share, and subscribe. Thank you guys for the continued support of the channel. We're also going to have Calvin take a moment to tell you how to reach him and his background.
First of all, I'm a 25-year practicing attorney. I'm a former Dallas City Council candidate. I have been an attorney for almost the last 25 years. I do state, local, and federal criminal defense. I've been involved in RICOs. I've done multiple cases all over the state of Texas, and I've been to a few other states. But what I try to do is provide a perspective, a lawyer's perspective, a real lawyer's perspective. I remember doing the Diddy trial. We had a lot of people talk about giving legal advice and what they thought Diddy was going to take, and what they were thinking about what was happening with the trial. I'm an actual lawyer who's been in federal court. So what we try to do on the weekly legal review is to provide that experience. And you can get that by going to my website at theywon'tletmeout.com, emailing me at attorneycalvindjohnson@gmail.com, or contacting me at 214-565-5600.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. Very good. So what do you think is going to happen now that there's new fire, there's new exchanges? Do you think that they're going to move on to phase 2, or you think this is going to be hard because Hamas is really pushing back?
I just don't know. And the reason why I say I don't know, because what happens is if you get on the wrong side of Mr. Trump after giving him your word, either side, and you don't do what you were supposed to do based on what you told them, it could go very bad for you, because the Americans could tilt this war either way. If Hamas does some things, if Israel does some things that they're not supposed to do, that it could cause either side a huge problem, because Donald Trump can put his thumb on this war for one side or the other, and he can really tilt this thing. And I think that everybody is aware of that. So what typically happens, and this is the part that people are not talking about, people will do just enough to push back without going full scale when an escalation happens. And I think that's the very delicate seesaw that we're kind of on right now.
When it comes to the history of Hamas, a lot of them are embedded with children who saw their parents slaughtered. They grew up to really, want to burn down the world, right? Mm-hmm. You also have religion at play, because they're, a certain religion and they're reading a certain book that tells them that this man is the enemy, how can someone like Donald Trump, a president as he may be, come along and change their philosophy in life and their relationship with God to destroy any enemy?
And I think it's the now. It's not about, when you think about faith, you're really thinking about the future and where your soul goes. I think what Mr. Trump does is, hey, whatever you think about me and whatever you think about what I'm here for, all I know is if you turn your word against me and you turn your word against America, or if you give me your word and you don't keep to it, I'm going to cause you some pain right now. And most leaders, they don't want to have their people go through so much pain, because if their people go through too much pain, they won't continue to follow them. So you got to be extremely careful when you think about that.
Right. So let's move over a little bit to Russia, and we know that they're going up against Ukraine. Over the week, there were certain outlets trying to reveal, Donald Trump's strategy. In fact, he said that they may push those heavier missiles, Tomahawk missiles, let them go push it into Russia. But then he pulled back from that. Do you think he has an overall plan? Because people feel like Russia is playing Donald Trump, Putin.
Well, see, I think people, sometimes we don't give Trump enough credit when he talks about letting those Tomahawk missiles go. Putin don't know if he's going to do it or not. And so Putin has to be extremely careful, because, as much as Russia likes to claim that they're strong as us, they don't have the technology. They may have the arsenal, but they don't have the technology that we have. They have not spent technologically as much as we have. And if Putin does something against what he tells Mr. Trump that he's going to do, then Trump at any time can say, hey, we're going to give them another 100 or 1,000 Tomahawk missiles, and we can actually temporarily play the game of, hey, extending this conflict. And I think that Trump does this to make sure Putin understands, hey, if you go too far with me, then I'm going to have to, if I ask you for A and you tell me you're going to do A, then you do B, the consequences of B are is I'm going to let these Tomahawks go to Ukraine, and they're going to use them against you. And I'm only going to let so many, but just to remind you, hey, you lose your word with me, I'm going to let them go. And so I think Trump plays this game with them that he has to play, and I think people need to understand that.
Do you think his tariffs are strategic? Because we're starting to see, in certain cases, some prices are going down, some cases it's going up. But in the case of India, he had pushed back on India, gave them a strong tariff, and they kind of solidified things more with Russia and China. But now he announced 2 days ago that India will no longer be at least buying oil from Russia. Do you think this is all advantageous?
I think he has to be careful with it, because I was talking about the soybean issue. Remember how the American farmers were selling $12 billion worth of soybeans to China, and how this year they've sold zero. And you got a whole farming industry that had crops of soybeans ready to sell China, and because of this war, this trade war, they haven't sold any to China. And in addition to that, China has actually started to go to Brazil and go to other markets and pay money to develop those markets so that they can continuously get their supplies of soybeans from there. So you may have a market that may never return to America. So I think this tariff game is very tricky, and I think it's going to hurt people in the long run. I have a business where our products come from Canada, and it's caused a potential problem even with the side business that I do in audio, where we don't know if what we're selling is going to have tariffs on them, and if we're going to have to charge the customer additional 25%. And in this high-end audio business, that could really cost us. And so when you start looking at stuff like that, like for myself, I'm going to vote my pockets as well. Like, I can't have somebody continuously putting stuff, taking it off, putting stuff, taking it off, because it makes everything unstable for myself.
Right. When it comes to China, a lot of people are not aware how much land China has purchased in the United States. And a lot of the land, go ahead.
They bought a lot.
And a lot of that land is near the army bases and strategic places that they purchase it. They've also purchased a lot of farms. Also, they're purchasing single family homes in neighborhoods through other corporations that people are not aware of. Do you
Exactly.
think that they're playing a long game of war?
They definitely are playing a long game, and they're going to start using those things that they have in their arsenal if we're not careful. But I think that the Americans also caught up to them as well. You notice a lot of these states are starting to pass laws against corporations that have certain China ties with buying land in America because they see it coming. I mean, China's been doing stuff quietly, but they're not going to be able to continue to do this quietly. I think we're catching on to what they're doing, to some of what they're doing. And I think that's why you see this big push against China. As much as they may think that we don't know that they're doing this, we know they're doing it. And I think probably when Mr. Trump hears some of the things about, hey, all this land purchases, the farm purchases, the property purchases, the companies with shell companies buying houses and apartment buildings and farmland, that's what is freaking him out. And he is probably pushing back against them strongly with all these tariffs, because he's basically saying, hey, look, if y'all don't stop doing this and if you don't play fair, this is what's going to happen. And I think that's the game he's playing with them right now. I think there's a lot in the background that maybe the American people don't understand, but I think we're starting to understand a little bit more about what China really is doing. And there's been a lot of situations, even with people crossing the border. People don't understand. There's been a lot of Chinese people that crossed the border that went through Latin American companies. They end up in America, and they're doing all kinds of stuff.
Right. Speaking of crossing the border, what are your thoughts about what's happening here in the United States when it comes to the illegal immigrants and how they're being strong-armed out? A lot of what I saw at the No Kings event was about immigrants built this country, immigrants should stay in this country. What do you think?
I think that we have to come up with some legal way to do immigration. You just can't have people walking over into the country. I mean, people can say what they want to say, Democrat or Republican, and I will tell you, I'm more of an independent. So anybody in the comment section that wants to go, oh, you don't like Trump, you must be a Democrat. No, I'm independent for the most part. And what I'm telling you is, I'm having enough common sense to know you just can't have people walking over into the country. Number one. And one of the problems I have with the Democrats is, hey, man, listen, we pay taxes. I don't want my tax dollars taking care of immigrants more than they're taking care of the people that are here, more than they're taking care of my community. I'm busting my butt to pay these taxes. I don't want the money wasted. And the Democrats have to be smart about that. Like, listen, we understand that immigrants play a huge part in this country. We have to figure out a way to get them here legally. Or we have to figure out a way to let them exist here in a way that that they pay taxes, and that way we can know where they're at, know what they're doing. We got to figure something out. We can't continue on with this, just letting everybody walk over into here. And then when they walk over into here, we're going to take care of them. People are not having that. People are struggling right now. When you can't feed your family and you pay taxes and you see the government is giving money away to people that don't even live here, not from here, that are not citizens, man, nobody's going to deal with that. And just as a practical matter, as a voters, those people can't vote for you. You're basically taking care of people with taxpayer money that can't vote for you. Nothing against immigrants. Hey, we're in Texas. We share a strong relationship with Mexico and the immigrants that come from there. But when it comes to certain things, man, we can't allow it. Doesn't make sense.
A lot of people feel betrayed that were Hispanic because they felt like Donald Trump appealed to them, but then once he got into office, he says, "Get out of here." What do you think about that?
Man, I was watching a video, and this one lady, and you've seen the video before. She said, "We were tricked. We were bamboozled. No, you were not tricked. He told you he was going to get rid of people that are not citizens. You just thought like, oh, well, he's not talking about me. He's not talking about my husband who's ran a business for the last 15 years. I mean, there was a family taking her kid to college, and they were immigrants. They were not legal. They had ran a business for the last 20 years, and they were dropping their daughter off in another state in college. They got pulled over. And guess where they're at right now? They're going to get deported. Everything's over for them. And people thought that people like that followed the law was not who he was going to go after. He's going out to everybody that didn't come here correctly and that was not a citizen. So I'm sorry if y'all believe that. Come on. You can't halfway do something. He didn't tell you he was going to halfway do something. He said he was going to prioritize the criminals, but he didn't say he wasn't going to deport people like yourself. So you shouldn't feel betrayed. And if you had people over here that you know you needed here, you shouldn't have voted that way, because he basically told you, hey, we're going after the criminals first, but hey, if you're not here, you're not supposed to be here. They're not just going to catch you and let you go. They're going to tell you got to get up out of here. And let's be honest, the system that we had in place wasn't going to work. And what the Democrats have to understand is, hey, there has to be some kind of legal way to do some immigration. B, if they're not here legally, you can't be spending or advocating spending a lot of taxpayer money, making sure that they're taken care of and expecting people to continue to vote for you and expecting American people to foot the bill. I mean, look at those people in Chicago. They're so upset because they feel like they went in the whole billions. And for the last 60 years, they asked for things in their communities that certain things get done and they never got done. And all of a sudden the immigrants show up and you hand them a few $1 billion. People, that happened. That's for real. People don't want to hear that. As a black man, I don't want that to happen. I have nothing against immigrants. I know some immigrants. There's some great people, but you got to come here the right way, period. Point blank. I'm just saying. I'm just keeping it a buck. You got to come here the right way, because if you don't, you're going to have these problems.
Yeah, so we have close to 800 people in the building. We really would appreciate if you guys could hit the like button, share, and subscribe. We really appreciate all you guys do. When it comes to motor vehicle, most people would get upset if they waited all day long and someone came in and just cut the line. But why do you think that we saw something different when Joe Biden was in office? They said millions of people were allowed to come in and break. Was there something else going on?
And see, that's the thing. A lot of people were coming in and they were just coming in and doing whatever they wanted to do and just walking over, and people didn't like that, and that's a problem. And so that's why a lot of people said, hey, we tried to come here legally. We tried to come here the right way. We paid the fees. We got the lawyers. We had the background checks. And all of a sudden, you let these whole group of people just walk over here and stay here when we had to be sponsored to be here. We had to do this and we had to do that. Now, we'll tell you, I'm concerned not just with the fact that they're now putting people out of the country. Let's discuss something else too, Mel. All of this stuff with ICE in Chicago, that concerns me. Here in Dallas, they offered the chief $25 million to partner with ICE, and he turned it down because he's a new chief. He's like, listen, I got to get my response times down. I got stuff to do here. We don't have enough manpower to deal with it. And plus, it creates a little chaos on our end if we're helping ICE in their operations. And a lot of people supported him in doing so, except for our mayor, believe it or not, who really wanted the issue looked at. My whole deal with this is this. I've seen some stuff in Chicago that has alarmed me. Going into some of the housing projects, tackling some of the citizens that are there, randomly pulling black folks to the side and doing certain things. That concerns me. The reason why I said that concerns me as a citizen, because I'm not putting up with that. Like, I don't care who you are, ICE or not, don't touch me. If you touch me and I'm doing nothing to you and I'm a citizen, you don't have a right to do that. And I'm not going to allow that. And I think that we got to be very, very careful when we start allowing folks to just randomly go into places and start doing stuff to folks. We have high concerns about that kind of stuff. That can't happen. You know what I mean? That's why we got to be careful. Don't get me wrong. You gotta get people out of this country that's not supposed to be here. Hey, I understand that. But with that being said, you can't trample on citizens' rights, and we're not having it. Thank God in Dallas that the guy turned that down, because I'm kind of concerned about the way that they're doing that right now.
All right. So what you said really sets the stage nicely for what I wanted to talk about with Don Lemon. I'm going to preface it for you in case you didn't hear about it. But he simply made a statement that in America, you have the right to stand your ground in many states. Mm-hmm. And if someone were to come to your house unidentified, you have the right to use your arms, right? Use your guns or what have you, right? So he made that statement because a lot of people of ICE are just rolling up to people's doors, not identifying themselves. Well, MAGA did not take to it too kindly. In fact, now they're going after him saying, listen, you're promoting people to shoot ICE workers.
Listen, and this is the concern I had. I watch some stuff in Chicago that alarm me, like rolling up, trying to come in my house. I'm not doing that. You got mask on. I don't know who you are. You're not coming to snatch me and anybody in my house up. I have a right to stand my ground, and I'm going to. And there are plenty of people who feel like me. It's not that we're anti-ICE or we're un-American or so on and so forth. That's not the deal. But we have a constitutional right not to be harassed like that. And I'm not having anybody touch me. Period. If they're not supposed to, they're not going to touch me. And that's just how I feel. And then plenty of people feel like that all over this country. Not just black folks, white folks, Hispanic folks that are citizens. Man, you're not just going to roll up on people and start doing stuff to them. I think that we got to be careful about that. Number one, if I'm an ICE agent, set up some kind of protocols, parameters, and standards upon which you do what you do. Don't get me wrong. Do your job. If you're here to get people that are here, they're not supposed to be here, I get that. I understand that. But you can't roll up on people, knocking on their doors, kicking their doors in, not identifying yourselves, doing this roughhousing because you're an ICE agent and you think you have the right to be able to do that. Nah, man, you can't do that. And see, that's concern. All of this roughhousing and showing up and putting your hands on people and running in people's houses without identifying yourself. Nah, man, you're gonna catch something. You do that to the wrong person, and you shouldn't want, as an American, you shouldn't want an ICE agent where something like that happens because they did not identify themselves, because somebody's gonna get hurt, man. You can't do that. Everybody's packing. All of these states have these gun laws right now where everybody got a gun, and so we got to be extremely careful, and we got to think about that. Nobody should lose their life doing this.
Some of these individuals going after Don Lemon think that he should be charged with a felony for inciting this campaign against ICE. From a legal perspective, as an attorney, is there any there?
I don't think there's a there. I mean, I think, is it smart for him to do that? No, I don't think it's smart for him to do it, because at the end of the day, these folks are federal employees. My whole deal is, if they're going to be federal employees, they have to follow the Constitution just like everybody else. So don't just run up on people, grabbing people, roughhousing people, disrespecting people. You can't do that. I've seen several situations on videos where you got these people running up on folks and they're talking crazy to each other. And the minute that they start talking shit to a citizen and the citizen says something to them they don't like, then that's when you want to put hands on people. You just can't do that. And I think that's where we're going to have a problem. You got these ICE agents who really, a lot of them have not been trained. A lot of them can't use the restraint that maybe even the average police officer has, right? These people go through a lot of training to be able to handle conflicts and talk to people that they're dealing with. And so we got to be extremely careful when it comes to these ICE agents randomly running around doing stuff. And I've seen several people in the comments, well, if you're not a criminal, they're not after you. No, I've seen them throw people on the ground that are not criminals. I've seen them go toe-to-toe with people who are American citizens and being kind of rough. You can't do that, because you just touch the wrong person, and that can end bad for everybody.
Okay, before we move on to talk about the crime in the inner cities and the National Guard, just take a moment and tell them how you can be reached.
I can be reached one of three ways: through my email, the whole word attorney Calvin D. Johnson @gmail.com. I can be reached at my website at theywon'tletmeout.com. And I can be reached by phone number 214-565-5600. Or you can go on Facebook, look up Attorney Calvin Johnson, and you will see a picture of me with my grandfather. And that's the icon that you use actually to friend me or follow me. So, hey, go to my Facebook, check it out, and follow me, and we'll go from there.
Okay, so when it comes to the inner city, they're sending in the National Guard. Some Chicago, they want to send. A lot of people are saying, hey, listen, this is the first time. A lot of women, right, black females, are saying, this is the first time I can sit in my backyard and let my children play because the National Guard are keeping us safe. On the other hand, you have people saying, we do not want them here. They're coming in as like warlords or gang members against us, talking about the National Guard. Is there a balance there, you see?
See, that's the concern I have. And I will say this. Inner city crime prevention has needed some help a long time, right? And I try to tell people, like, whenever with that defund the police crap, I thought that was the craziest shit. And, as somebody who most people will consider me a Democrat. But when they were saying that shit, I was like, excuse my language, I got to watch it. when they were saying that dumb stuff, I was saying to myself, like, what the hell are y'all talking about? You can't defund the police. You're gonna need the police. If you get the police out of here, these criminals are gonna run in here and they're gonna do whatever the hell they want to. There is a time when each and every one of us may need law enforcement. And to defund them that was ludicrous. It was crazy. But with that being said, the National Guard coming into inner cities, that shouldn't really be a thing. I think you got to be careful about that because number one, and I would try to tell people, we had this issue in Texas where state troopers were coming into inner cities, and then they were patrolling, and it wasn't going well because they're not really trained here in Texas. Now we got 4 big cities, but they're not really trained for inner city combat. There was a situation where they were chasing a guy, ended up shooting him, killing him, because that's inner city, driving down these streets and alleyways. National Guardsmen are not trained to deal with inner city issues. And I think that's a dangerous combination when you add somebody who's trained for the National Guard and you throw them in a concrete jungle, expecting them to take out some duties. I don't think that's smart. And if you want to help in some shape, form, or fashion, train a set of folks that will come in and assist these local city police departments. But man, to just send random National Guard in, I don't think that's a good idea. Now, does inner city crime prevention need help? Yes. But I think there's better ways to do it. And I think there's a more concerted way to do it. And then the other problem I have with this as well is Mr. Trump knows that the inner city voter has not voted for him. And some people are saying that he is doing this to get back at the inner city voters, the inner city folks, the people that are a little bit liberal when it comes to their laws. And they're saying he's using this as a political tool, not as a crime prevention tool. And so we also have to be aware and careful about that as well.
Okay, thank you, Zach, for the super chat. We really do appreciate the support. But here's the thing. Recently, in one weekend, there was 12 people shot in Chicago. Why would people push back on the National Guard or anyone coming in to try to eradicate such conduct?
And see, that's the thing. In certain cities, they need help, like places like Chicago. I remember, and I tell people this, I have a friend who has a very successful restaurant chain. Matter of fact, Kevin Kelly just opened up True Kitchen, Philadelphia. So he's in Atlanta, Chicago, DC, and now Philadelphia, and of course in Dallas. And so he's opened up a chain of restaurants, but his Chicago restaurant, it's an upscale place. They had to pat you down before you walked in there. And I said, Kevin, what's going on with this? And he said, well, man, listen, Chicago's so wide open. My security has to pat people down. We don't want anything to happen when they come in our restaurant. And see, that's the kind of thing that we have to be aware of. In Chicago, they need some help. The people of Chicago, the police department of Chicago, and Illinois themselves should have done something about this crime in Chicago because it's out of control. So we have a place like Chicago where people are dying 12 at a time over a weekend. People want some resolve. They want some help. And so places like Chicago, hey, if you don't want Mr. Trump in, you got to fix it yourself. If not, be quiet. Let him fix it.
So what's the real deal about covering their faces when it comes to ICE? Police officers have the same amount of threat. They have to go into buildings, gunshots, and all of that. Why does ICE get to cover their faces?
Because, just like anything else, it's the internet. People are going to recognize who you are. If you have a Facebook post, if they have photos of you in the past, they're going to be able to identify who you are. They're going to be able to know where you live. They're going to be able to know where your family lives. They're going to be able to actually trail you. See, technology, as a lawyer, because I have to learn all these things. They have flight cameras. They have facial recognition software. They have geo tracking. They have phone tracking. There are people that are not law enforcement that can employ some of these same tactics to find out how ICE is, where their families are, where their cars are, where they work, where their mother and where their relatives live. This day in technology is extremely dangerous. And so that's why they're covering their faces, because people don't understand. Just like you catch these criminals doing these smash and grabs, you can do the same with ICE. If somebody has access to the same tools that the government has, You can be at ICE's door just like they're at your door. And so that's where you have the problem. It's a safety issue.
I saw a video on the freeway in Chicago where ICE was trying to arrest a man on a, whatever, to get him out of here. People, the local crowd started to kick the handcuffs away. They were helping him get away to the point where ICE just drove off. Do you think we're going to see more of that?
I think you are. And it's sad because you got to be careful about how you employ law enforcement in these kind of communities. And I'm not saying that that's the right thing to do. But what happens is when you have law enforcement coming into these communities that they don't know the people, they're coming in being strong arming. And I'm not saying it's right, because if somebody in law enforcement is doing their job, you got to let them do their job. But with that being said, the heavy-handedness and the lack of the knowledge of the lay of the land is creating huge problems for law enforcement when they go in these environments and they try to do these jobs. And people have to understand it's a breakdown of the moral fiber of America. It's not just one-sided either. When Donald Trump gets away with something, if Joe Biden gets away with something, the more that each party gets away with stuff, people start saying, you know what? They don't play by the rules. They don't play by the rules. And since nobody's going to play by the rules, we're not going to play by the rules either. We're just going to protect our own. And I think we really got to start paying attention to that, because some people are just going to say, hey, I'm not going to respect the government that says that I'm the enemy. And that's the problem that I have with Mr. Trump. When you have somebody that disagrees with you, now they're the enemy. When you start calling these folks enemies like that, hey, it's going to be on. And just the same way, if you're going to call the president enemy with the way he is, he's going to say it's on. So I think at this point, we have become not just a nation of people that disagree with each other, that coexist. We have become a nation of people. If I disagree with you, now you're my arch enemy, and I want to fight you to the death. And the more that America becomes like that, the more problems we're going to have.
Do you think it's an extreme measure that if you talk bad about Charlie Kirk or anybody such as Trump, that now they're starting to revoke your visa?
I think that is. I think you should be able to speak freely, and I believe you should be able to speak your mind. There's some people that like Mr. Kirk. I don't care for him much. There's some people that love him. There's some people that like some people he talked about. Like, I love Dr. King. Some people don't like Dr. King. Some people don't like Ketanji Brown, the Supreme Court Justice. I love her. But at the same time, you have a right to talk about her. And we have a right to talk about him. You have a right to say whatever you want to say. I mean, that goes both ways. So I think you should have freedom of speech. But at the same time, when you say something about somebody that I like and respect, and I decide not to like and respect you, you just need to accept that. And to respect, and that goes both ways. There's some people that don't like Charlie Kirk. They ought to be able to say it. There's some people that love Charlie Kirk. They ought to be able to say it. There's some people that like Kamala Harris. They ought to be able to say it. There's some people that don't like Kamala Harris. They ought to be able to say it. Man, I don't care who it is. You ought to be able to speak your mind. Not just because somebody's MAGA or somebody's far left. You ought to be able to say what you want to say about who you're standing against.
Okay, so recently I've covered 2 of these No Kings events, right? Protests. And I've come shoulder to shoulder, side by side with Antifa, which I'd never done before. And in fact, this time around, it seemed to be more and more. We're seeing a lot of young people starting to rise up. And not only that, there were a lot of elderly people. I saw people in their 80s pushing a walker, barely moving, but they had to get out there and protest. There's probably 20% more people there this time than back in June. Do you think we're going to see an extreme uprising, or do you think people are going to take it to the voting booth?
I think you're going to see both. People are going to take it to the voting booth because I think even some of the MAGA folks are hurt now financially. This economy is terrible. Look at Vegas. Look what's happening in Vegas. Look at the prices of everything. But I also think that one side has decided that the form of democracy that existed or that exists now doesn't work for them. And so I think that they're using whatever power they have to mold it to something that is going to work for them. The problem with that is they're starting to step on people's rights. They're starting to step on the free speech rights. They're starting to step on other people's constitutional rights. I tell people this all the time. People think that democracy is a foundational starting point for America. I don't view democracy like that. I view democracy as a starting point as long as it works for a certain group of people. And I think right now, those on the right and those that are MAGA have felt like the form of democracy upon which that exists now does not work for them. So they're starting to go in and change that. And I think that the Democrats on the left think that, hey, democracy says you can't do that. Let's talk about this. And I think that what they have to understand is that that side isn't interested in the form of democracy that got us here. And the Democrats, I think, are tied to the democracy that got us where we are now. And so I think that you're only tied to something as long as it works for you. And I think that people need to start accepting that reality, because right now, certain forms of democracy is not working for certain people.
Okay, Scott Worley and also Eddie says that the economy is not terrible. You're getting some pushback. What do you think?
Hey, man, every time I look up, a lot of people are losing their jobs. The number of repos has skyrocketed. The price of food has went up. My clientele, in terms of hiring me, people don't have the money that they used to have. There are a lot of layoffs. A lot of companies are doing layoffs. So I think this economy is doing good for certain sectors, but for the average middle class American, I don't think that this economy is a good economy. I think that the number of people that have less money to do what they need to do is starting to increase. And you see with this government shutdown that is really hurting a lot of federal employees, and it's hurting a lot of businesses that depend on federal employees to be able to exist. And so I think that the economy for some people may be okay, but I'm talking to a lot of people, the people that I know, the people that I'm around, it's not really working for them.
Okay, so for those of you in the audience, some have expressed interest in wanting to come up and express yourself. I'm going to be dropping the link in about 15 minutes, so stay tuned. We'll drop the link. Feel free to come up. When you do come up, please show your camera and also be very presentable and have your good lighting if you could. So Calvin, let me ask you a question. What do you think about Joe Biden saying that he should take the credit too for this deal in Israel versus, Gaza or what have you?
I don't know about that. If it didn't get done under you, it didn't get done. I mean, if you had it on the table and you couldn't get people to agree to it, that's one thing. Some people are trying to say, well, Trump told certain people not to agree to it until he got into office. But at the end of the day, did Biden do some work to try to get it done? Yes. Did it get done under him? No. So I don't know about that. I think, did he lay some of the groundwork to try to do some things? Yeah. But at the end of the day, this particular president got it done. So you got to give him the credit.
Right. Let me ask you another question. You started off talking about how you became an attorney. What would you give as advice for those in the audience who may be interested in becoming an attorney or a paralegal?
I think you need to understand what you're getting yourself into. I mean, to become an attorney, and I heard a lot of people say a lot of negative things about attorneys. I remember one guy, you don't get to come on here and say this and say that. The reason why I do get to come on here and say this and say that is because, number one, I went to college, got a college degree, which you need to become a lawyer. I took the LSAT, scored high enough to get into a good school, which you need to be able to study at one of the best schools to become a good lawyer. I was able to go to law school, which takes a college degree, taking LSAT, and going to 3 years of law school. I did that. I got my law degree. to be able to sit for the Texas bar, you have to have your law degree. I did that. And you have to score a certain number on the bar exam to become an attorney. I did that. So to become an attorney, you're literally talking about 7 years of school and 2 giant bar-related, law school-related tests to become an attorney. And it takes a lot of time, effort, and money. And I try to tell people all the time, not only did I go to a college, I went to a private college. I went to a private law school. So I even stepped that up because those private places typically have smaller classrooms, a little bit more prestigious for the most part, depending on where you go. So I was able to go to a private college, private law school, take the bar exam, pass it on my first time, but it took a number of years to get there. Usually it takes 7 years, but because of money and finances, it took me 10. I had to stop and work a couple of years so I could have the money to be able to do what I was doing. So it takes a lot to become an attorney. It takes a lot of experience to become an attorney. So when you jump on YouTube and you have these guys and they start talking about, well, I can give you advice because I did time in the feds. Man, do not listen to that. And when some guys come on here, and I had one knucklehead talking about, oh, I train lawyers, I train attorneys. You don't do anything. You can't train a lawyer or an attorney. Let me tell you why you can't. It takes a lot to be able to do what I do. You have to be very good at logical and analytical thinking. And so if you're going to do that, very few people are going to have the wherewithal to be able to actually train you unless that they're extremely experienced themselves or extremely educated to be able to do so. So most of these guys on YouTube, they have not done the work that I've done as an attorney. So when you have a random person giving you legal advice, don't listen to that. Find a licensed attorney in your state, find a licensed attorney, sit down with him. Most of the time, I'm giving you information for free. Me and Mel, we're giving you good free information, right? But most of the time, you're going to pay for that information. Sit down with an attorney, ask him what he's done, how long he's been practicing, and understand that it takes a lot to do what I do. This is not something that you just jump up and do. You got to put the work in.
Thank you. A lot of work that is, I tell you. A lot of people had started to talking over the week about Donald Trump's health. Why do you think the media really pushed so hard on him, perhaps even being on a decline, and then all of a sudden they dropped the whole narrative?
I think because he's older, and then that sometimes he can be a little, let's say, gnarly. He can get a little angry, a little agitated, but what old man doesn't, right? So old man syndrome kicks in, man, you get a little stubborn. But I think at the same time, I think people have to understand that that's just part of leadership sometimes, especially when you're an older guy. You get a little agitated. You're not trying to, you lose some patience. And then let's be real, you also lose some of your mental faculty as you get older. And neither him or Biden, both of them are in their 80s at this point. So when you got some 80-year-old folks running the country, you always got to worry about their mental faculties because the nature of, like I said, like Charles Barkley said, Father Time is undefeated. And so Father Time will catch up with each of us, and he's going to catch up with Mr. Trump. It's already caught up with Mr. Biden. So that's what's going to happen. So you always have to be concerned when you got somebody that old.
Yes, indeed. Okay, so Curry Kun says gas is only cheaper in red states because Trump is trying to keep his voters.
I don't know about that. I think that it just depends on where you are. In Texas, when we got a lot of oil down here, so it is going to be what it's going to be. I just think you got to be extremely careful about that. I think where America's winning, this is the dangerous part. People only advocate after they win an election. They only advocate for the people who voted for them. It didn't used to be that way. I mean, when you won the election, people accepted you for the next 4 years. You went and did what you needed to do, and if an election came, you lost. You went to the House. But right now, I think it's become a situation where the loser gets preyed on, and the winner inflicts pain. And I think we got to be careful about that because when the rabbit has the gun, let's say, of the next election, and let's say the MAGA people don't win, what do you think that people are going to want to do after living through some of what they're living through right now? And you got to be extremely careful about that. And I don't want to see America to start to be that way. I want to get back to being America, which is when you're my neighbor and we have a disagreement, you're just my neighbor I disagree with. You're not my arch enemy. And I think that we rent the arch enemy route. And I think that, I'm losing hope that we can even get back to the America we once had. I think it's just going to be war from both sides this time on out. And I think that when you have that, you have stuff like you got right now with the government shutdown, right? So you got two sides and nobody wants to blink while people are hurting, man. Government workers are hurting. People receive federal benefits are hurting. I mean, they still got to pay rent. They still got to pay bills. Like we got to really start thinking about this as a country.
Rhino says economy is much better than it was during Joe Biden's term.
People can say what they want to say. Maybe the economy is better for you. But what about these federal workers when they go get their paychecks? What about these folks that are going to start missing their federal benefits? What about these things that need to get paid through these government contractors that they're not going to have their money? These companies that really live off these government contracts, they don't get the money they need to be able to sustain themselves. I mean, people can talk all that off they want to, but at the same time, we have a government right now that's not functioning properly to be able to assist all of the people, not just people that are political, but people that are non-political that just need their checks, that just need to pay their bills. We have some concerns that are on the rise. A lot of these companies are closing down. There's a lot of car dealerships right now that are going under. There's a lot of government jobs that are no longer there. There are a lot of companies that trying to get to their bottom line. They're using AI and getting rid of workers. I mean, we got some concerns here that we need to start fixing.
Mitchell D says, prior to the new contracts, we are paying out taxpayer dollars. Elon Musk, $8 million a day he gets.
Well, see, that's what I'm concerned about. I mean, there's also been a solidification of money at the top end, which means we have a higher concentration of wealth at the higher end. And the middle class, the wealth is kind of drying up. I mean, we have too many oligarchy type people like, Bezos and Musk and these guys that have all of this money. And I'm not trying to control what they have, we don't have, because we are a capitalistic society. But these guys are getting smart and they're starting to solidify their power and get more money. And it's starting to screw the middle class. The upper middle class and the middle class and the lower middle class is getting screwed. And the poor people definitely are starting to get screwed. So we got to be extremely careful.
Okay. Eddie says Biden started wars, Trump ends wars.
It's one of those things where this is the kind of way that I approach Biden and Trump. There's some good things that both did. There's some bad things that I think I have concerns about. I think that when you just align yourself with a person to believe that everything they do is right, that's why I have the concerns, right? You got people that are going to defend Biden no matter what. You got people that are going to defend Trump no matter what. And I don't care for really going back and forth those type folk. It is what it is. I think both of them can do some good things and both of them can do some bad things. And I think that's a more realistic way to approach folks. But in today's world, if you're MAGA and you're Trump, everything he does is like vanilla ice cream with cherries on top. Everything that Biden does is melted dark chocolate ice cream that's running with no sugar. And you can't treat, just because you support somebody, you just can't support every little thing that they do, even when it's wrong or even when it hurts people. And we got to get back to a government that realizes, hey, do I support Trump? Okay, if I do, I'm supporting him 80, 90% of the time, but there's 10 to 20% of the time where I'm not going to rock with that. Same thing with Biden. Do I support Biden? Yeah, but this 10 to 20% of the stuff over here, if it's best for my community, not to support him on that 10 to 20%, I'm not going to. We got to get back to community-based leadership where you really, really put the people in their community first, as opposed to allegiances to a particular person. And I think we got to get better at that.
Rhonda Burns says, hey, ask about paying for Trump's golfing.
Well, once again, those are things like people talk about, that he golfs too much and we're paying for these private jets and we're paying for a lot of these golf trips. I mean, I don't pay attention to that. Just because somebody's president, they have a right to kind of have some leisure time. I mean, you can't run yourself into the ground. But with that being said, that's a concern when you shut down the government and you're playing golf and using taxpayer money to pay golf. And these people are here not getting their checks. And these people are here and they can't get their government benefits. And These workers are going to lose their jobs. They can't pay their mortgages. People look at that stuff. So I can definitely understand the concern that people actually have.
I just came back from San Diego, and in fact, Gold Digger makes a good point. I was out west. She says gas in California, I paid $4.35 a gallon just yesterday. Facts.
Man, you only paid $4.35. That was pretty good for what I talked to my cousin about. I have a cousin out there, man. He says there are times that stuff gets up to $5 or $6 a gallon. So, but California has its own issues. And I went out there a couple of years ago. Went to Beverly Hills. I got a friend that lives out there. Saw my cousin get married in Temecula. And I try to tell people, man, listen, California's a different beast right now, man. Then you had it's different out there. You go to a place like Beverly Hills where everything's so clean and you don't see anybody anywhere wrong doing anything. And then you can drive past some of the neighborhoods and you're in the hood and you don't even know you're in the hood. You're at a stoplight, you see somebody walk across the street and you go like, man, that looks like a gang member. That looks like somebody that's, hustling. And so in California, man, it's different out there, and like I said, depending on, where you're at and what you're doing. I mean, California, they have its strong points and they have their problems. I heard downtown LA is just like, it's a place where people just refuse to go. A lot of people just said, I'm not going downtown LA anymore because it's dangerous. And so you gotta take each side with a grain of salt when it comes to America.
Being at the No Kings protest yesterday, I felt something different. I really felt like there's a lot of tension in the air. There's a lot of hatred coming from both sides. Like, where is that going to end?
It's going to end bad. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I see it coming. And the reason why I say I see it coming is because, I've seen people on each side when they have power be gleeful, right? When I say be gleeful, it's like, okay, you got those on the right now, they're in control. They got the president in there, and then they're having people come in and do this and do that. And they're like, yeah, get them. Yeah, MAGA. Yeah, this, yeah, that. But then you got situations like, okay, your president has control of ICE. He's sending ICE into these communities, sending National Guard into communities. Well, what happens when he sends ICE into a community and somebody goes, well, hey, I'm a citizen, and then, I will show you my ID, and then you continue to bug me about what I'm doing and ask me questions. Like, I don't want to talk to you and get out of my face. And then you get offended. And next thing you know, ICE is coming down hard on people, tackling folks and doing this and doing that. You got to be careful with that because people can start to not respect authority, especially when the other side's authority is in power. And I think that MAGA needs to be careful because they're not going to win every election. If the Democrats will get their heads out their butts, eventually they may win some elections one day. And when they do, you got people on the Democratic side, they're going to remember how they were treated. And so we got to be extremely careful, man. This thing is not going to end well because I think that in the past, I think generally there was respect for the law and the rule of law. I think that's left now. So when you have a governmental agency like ICE come in and then just start putting hands on people that they shouldn't put their hands on, I mean, it's going to get kind of testy. They started to tow ICE vehicles when they're doing some of the operations. Some of the stuff that you said earlier, kicking handcuffs away, running ICE off. I mean, that's something that I hadn't seen in America in a very, very long time. I hadn't seen that since the 60s. And so I think you got to be very careful about that. And in today's America, it's very, very different. And people are not going to just allow you to do them and handle them any kind of way, regardless of what agency you're with as a federal agency. So I think we got to be careful.
It seems like the left is sucking wind. Do you think there's a strong way back?
For them, I don't know. And when I say the left, I don't know because they won't get. I think they've lost their way. And when I say they've lost their way, they're so far left. Like they're more worried about. And nothing against the trans and the alphabet community and the abortion stuff and some of the immigrant stuff. But I think they're so far in that direction that the average American says, well, I'm not going to trust that. They're putting people who do I care about what happens to somebody on that side? Or do I care about my family, my kids, my ability to make a living, my ability to have a school that I feel comfortable sending my kid to, my ability to pay my bills, my ability to, hey, I've spent this tax money and given it to the government, and they're giving it away to people who are not citizens. I think the Democratic Party needs to have a rude awakening about, number one, focus on actual voters, focus on the actual people of America, the average person. I think that they're so focused on the far left and immigrants that they're going to get their asses handed to them every time they go into an election. And people hate that I say this, but I'm just being honest. I mean, even the average American says, you know what? I see what that looks like over to the left. I'm just going to try what's going on the right. And I don't know if the Democrats have the wherewithal to be able to come back from this. I just don't know.
Right. Okay. So Spiffy says left versus right is manufactured by the rich.
I agree with some of that. I think some of the left versus right is manufactured by the rich, because while they're pitting left against right, they got their hands in our pockets. They got their hands in all of our pockets. Like, I'll give you an example right now. A lot of the MAGA folks, they can be like, sometimes they can be Trump sycophants, right? And I think that they need to be careful, because I think while some of them support MAGA to hilt, some of MAGA's taking money out of their pockets. They're taking money out of everybody's pockets. And so I think you got to be careful with that. And even on the left, the Democrats are not immune to this either. I think that they do a lot of things to continue to leave certain people in place so that they can get their hands in our pockets, so that they can give money away sometimes to people they shouldn't be giving it to. And I think with the right and the left, I think a lot of them do that. And I think we got to be careful with the Democrats and the Republicans, because I honestly believe that some of this animosity is for profit by the Democrats and the Republicans at times.
Okay, Homer Sapien said almost all the entire mainstream media is left-leaning.
I would say a lot of that would be right, but you got Fox, you got a lot of these news organizations starting to say, no, too much left stuff. The right has bought a lot of newspapers. They've done a lot of course correction on CNN by getting more right-leaning pundits on there. The stuff at MSNBC, they've cleared some people out and got some people off of their shows. I think for a while there was a lot of left-leaning media, but I think there's a lot. I think there's more balance now than there was before.
Okay, very good. So I dropped the link in the comment section. If you guys would like to come up and express yourself, feel free to do so now. Just hit the link and we'll be happy to have a conversation with you. Each person gets 2 to 3 minutes, so why not come up and ask your questions? It's a great time because we do have a criminal defense attorney, which we value his knowledge, some 25 years, and I think it's quite amazing. Calvin, could you just tell everybody what would be your advice for the younger crowd who is seeing both sides display hatred?
I think that they really need to understand that, number one, go in at a very measured, with a very measured mentality. Pay attention to what's happening, and try to understand why each side feels the way they feel, and then try to be better than what we're being right now. Those that are older, that are on the left and the right, we're not doing a good job of running this country, either on the right or the left. I think that our young people should really pay attention to realize that they are the future, and that they should want to create a situation where they can become educated, they can become leaders, and then to try to understand that being an American is still important. We got to figure out a way, and it has to start with the generation of being able to coexist in America, because what makes us such a great country is that we have different races and hues and genders and all this other stuff we got going in America. I think that makes us a great nation. And I think that we need to start paying attention to how we run this country. And I think our young people need to understand that this is still a good country and it can be better. But they should be focusing on being involved in grounded, foundational-based leadership to try to get this country back to where it can be.
Okay, very good. Does it help China and Russia for the United States to have so much tension and so much hate of your neighbor? Do you think they're pushing it?
Yes, definitely. I was looking at some stuff. There was an article in CNN a few years ago, and they talked about how some of the Russians were paying African internet cafes to get Facebook profiles and Instagram profiles and spout hate and to spout division in the Black community and spout division between the Black and the white community. That there were internet cafes that they were paying people to do this, and I think China has a big role in the foundational breakdown of American culture. Part of the reason why TikTok has become an issue is because they're using it to push a lot of agendas that a lot of Americans don't agree with. Think about the TikTok videos and all these parents. We talk about this all the time of some of the cussing and some of the sexuality that's pushed in TikTok and some of the disrespectful stuff that's allowed to happen from channel to channel so quickly, and we have no control over it. I think China plays a big role in that. I think that they understand, and they're very measured when they do this. They understand that they can systematically break down American culture and make it worse.
Okay. Kristen says the only hate in this country is rap.
You know what? Let's have a conversation. Who bought the rap? People don't understand, like, the rap is not controlled by really Black people anymore. They're controlled by, German and Jewish conglomerates. And guess what the German and Jewish conglomerates are pushing now? They're pushing drill rap. They're not pushing anything positive anymore. I mean, rap is not really controlled by Black folks anymore. These companies will get a life insurance policy on rappers, and they're only pushing drill rap and death rap. That's what these companies are doing. That's how they're making their money. You try to put something positive in the algorithm, they're not supporting any of that. So when you talk about the only hate that's being pushed is rap, we're not even controlling rap anymore. Matter of fact, they're going AI right now where they don't actually need any Black rappers. They can create a Black rapper in AI and then have them put a song out. So that's the issue.
Okay. Candyman says yesterday was a win for the President Trump. He got 7 million people out exercising. Big win for MAGA 2025.
Well, like I said, everybody right now, your guys in power, you think it's all good. Hey, that can change in a win. It can change in the midterms. It can change in 3 years from now when you have elections for the next presidency. I mean, we got to be very careful. We have to be very measured. Like I said, there's some people that will support Trump 100% and Biden 100% in everything that they do. Me, I look at each individual decision and see how it affects America and how it affects me. And that's kind of what I base everything that I do off of.
Okay, very good. When it comes down to the whole legal system, let's just talk about Diddy real quick. Some in the audience are asking about this pardon that's in the media saying that Diddy could have been pardoned over the last 48 hours. I don't think it happened thus far, but what do you think about that?
I don't know if Trump's going to actually do that. He might, but I think Diddy has said some things about Trump in the past that I don't think Trump has cared for. Diddy also did rock the vote, which did not support Mr. Trump. So I just don't know if Mr. Trump is going to pardon Diddy. I don't know if he's going to use it to do that. But then, too, he might because he's used his pardon for many rappers in the past. Kodak Black, I think, got one. Lil Wayne has gotten one. So I seen him pardon rappers before. He had Mr. Trump, believe it or not, has ties to the hip hop community that runs back to the 80s and 90s. And so I just don't know about them pardoning Diddy. And I think a lot of that, especially with that Diddy video out with him and Cassie, I don't know if Trump is going to pardon Diddy. That combined with the fact that I don't think Diddy has always supported Trump in the past. So I don't know about that.
Were you shocked to see that he pardoned or commuted George Santos?
No, it didn't surprise me. It didn't surprise me. I think people that are on his side of the tent, he has a soft spot for it. He's going to use that power to do whatever he wants to do.
Right. Especially when it comes to the Southern District. Now we're seeing Letitia James and also Fannie take a hit down in Georgia. Do you think that was organized by higher sources to have these ladies go after Trump? It seems suspicious.
Yeah, these ladies went after Trump, and Trump's not going after them. And that's just the truth. I mean, I think you had a little bit of both. And I think right now Trump is using his power to go after these women. And I think you got to be careful about that, because once again, when you win an office and you use your power to go after somebody, there you go. But I also think that Mr. Trump probably thought that, hey, these women went after me. And so since they went after me, I'm going to go after them. And once again, that's why you got to be extremely careful when you're in power or you're in a situation where you are trying to go after a political opponent with the power that you now have. I think that's very dangerous.
When it comes to Letitia James, do you think that's a real serious case, or do you think it's something that she might be able to survive?
I don't think it's a serious case, but I also think that I think that if you're a woman like Letitia James and Fannie Willis, if you're going to go after Mr. Trump, you got to make sure you have clean bed sheets. You got to make sure you don't have any skeletons in the closet, because if you do, they're going to find them. You got to anticipate that if you have any skeletons in your closet and you've done anything wrong, they're going to find it. And if you think you're going to go after Mr. Trump and you got a skeleton and you got some bed bugs, you shouldn't be going after Mr. Trump, because it's not going to go well for you. It's just not. And that's the thing that surprised me the most, that they had these women go after him and knowing that there's some stuff in their backgrounds, there's some stuff they're doing that was going to cause them some problems. And in the case of both of them, there are some concerns about, A, how one got along, and the other one, B, had a boyfriend that they were paying allegedly over $1 million. And people go, oh, that's a distraction. He's still a criminal, this and that. Well, you got to understand that if you're going to go after one of the most powerful men in the world, that you got to have your stuff clean. And I just, for the life of me, I don't understand how that they didn't understand that. I just don't understand.
Could you help us understand, in the legal world, I thought that the prosecutor comes down through a certain pipeline, but it said that she hired a private person to go after Trump. How does that work? I don't understand.
Sometimes you can hire private people. You can outsource the work, because sometimes when you have special prosecutions, you don't want your office always involved in every single thing. And if you have a special prosecution that you're working on, sometimes you have to get outside counsel to do it. Her problem wasn't getting the outside counsel. It was just that outside counsel she was dating and sleeping with.
Oh, wow.
And that's a problem, because you don't want to be okaying people's checks and you have some kind of relationship with them. I mean, that's just, and I'm not, some people get mad at me that I'm saying it, but you just can't do that. You just can't do it.
Do you think that Fannie Willis single-handedly destroyed the opportunities for Donald Trump to be shut down for the presidency by her dropping the ball?
I don't think she single-handedly did, but she played a part in the majority of it. And the reason why I say that is because, once again, if you're going to go after the most powerful man in the world, or one of the most powerful men in the world, you better have your ducks in a row. You better have a clean bed. And she didn't have a clean bed. I hate to use the word clean bed, but she didn't have to have a clean bed when it came down to that. And I think she needed to have enough sense to know that these people were coming. And then you got my sisters, Black women, they're going to be up in a huff because I'm saying this. But I think that when you go up against something like this, you got to, understand what you're going up against. And you got to know that your I's got to be dotted, your T's have to be crossed. And when hers were not dotted and crossed, we paid for it.
Right. Denise says so many charges people didn't believe and pissed people off.
And see, that's the other thing too. You gotta do it in a way where people can understand it, where it's clear and concise, and that you have a meted out plan upon how you're going to be going to get your convictions. And I think that there were definitely some concerns down there in Georgia. I mean, there were some situations upon which where he was calling the governor, and then they were sending people to election judges' doors and houses. And, that's very scary for me. Like, for example, there were 2 older Black women that were election judges, and people were showing up at their doors and doing this. And, Fannie Willis was definitely looking at those things where you had people showing up at the doors of these African-American women who were election judges. And see, what people don't understand is very, very dangerous. Like, for example, if that was my mother and you knocked on my door and I thought you had a weapon, I'm going to leave you where you're standing. See, people could get killed showing up at people's houses, and you're going after people's parents because they're election judges. And you don't know when some of these sycophants, these political sycophants come up to your door. I'm not waiting till somebody decides to do something. You show up at my door yelling, and I think you got a weapon, and I'm gonna lay you down. And see, that could have went really, 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 really bad. And I think that there was something there. You should not be calling a governor, telling them, "Hey, you can find them votes," when you just lost an election. You shouldn't be sending people to people's doors or election judges to say that they're cheating and you don't know these folks and they're just doing their job. Shouldn't be doing that. So those are the concerns that I have when we start talking about stuff like that.
Okay. What's shocking to me is that Letitia James basically went after Donald Trump with real estate tax and appraisal type issues all combined. But then they dig into her life and find that she purchased a primary residence and utilized a primary mortgage for a house in Virginia while living in New York.
And see, that's why I get upset, because I go, if you're going to go after somebody for something like that and you are doing certain things, how is that going to look? Like, what are you doing? You knew that you had this going on when you decided to prosecute Mr. Trump. So what in your mind made you think that they were not going to find that out? I mean, I hate to say this. There was a rep line that one of my guys had. And it said, "I'm NBA, you JUCO." When I say I'm NBA, you JUCO, which means when you go after Mr. Trump, that's NBA level player. You got to kick that junior college mindset you got, and you got to step your game up. If you know that you took a mortgage loan and potentially lied about some things to get a better rate and to be able to get the loan approved, you got to know that. That's a junior college mistake. You got to know it's there. So when people do stuff like that and then go after Mr. Trump, and then the public goes, "Well, you after him for real estate, but you doing real estate for over here." And come on, what are you doing? Get your hands clean first. Make sure your hands clean before you go after somebody. Or if you know that you have dirty hands, let somebody else go do it. That's just what I'm saying. That makes sense to me.
Right. Very good. Gold Digger says, well, I guess they both committed real estate fraud.
Yep.
Donald Trump and Letitia James.
Yep. And once you are the person that's going after Mr. Trump for real estate fraud, and then you do it, you've lost all your credibility. Because now he goes, well, she did it. She did the same thing I did, just in a different way. Then you hurt that. You can't have that happen.
Okay, very good. So if anyone would like to come up, now's your time. I'm going to drop the link again. You could come up and have a discussion and ask questions or make your comments. I think there were some people previously that wanted to do so. I just dropped the link. Feel free to click the link and come right in. It should be very easy to do so. Someone was asking, who are we talking about? We're talking about Fani Willis as far as Georgia, and then in New York, we're talking about Letitia James.
Yes. So we're talking about Fani Willis in Georgia and Letitia James in New York. Those are the two people that primarily went after Trump at the state levels.
Yes. Denise says Democrats always charge Republicans with what they do.
What they actually do. Well, yeah, but if you're going to do that and then you're doing some of the same behaviors or you're involved in some of the same things, you're hurting your cause, because now you can't take the moral high ground. And once people don't trust what you're doing and you're doing some of the same things that you're accusing the other side of doing, man, you lose your credibility.
Okay. LaDonna wants to know, do you think Diddy's going to get a pardon? I guess you touched on it before. Can you?
I don't think he's going to get a pardon. And like I said before, I kind of knew he was going to get this time. And listen, everybody, do I think he deserved that amount of time? Probably not, based on the convictions, based on his criminal history. But with that being said, I kind of knew he was going to get the time he got. That's why I properly guessed it. And when you get that kind of time, I just think with Mr. Trump, I think he's going to leave it alone. I don't think Diddy will do a lot of it. He's done 13 months already anyway. They gave him 50. He'll be able to take about 9 of it off, doing some of the other things. And maybe a couple of years, 2.5 years, he'll probably come home.
Okay. So I want to take a few minutes. Since I was at the trial, I went to Diddy's trial every day. I was in the main courtroom. Calvin and I, we covered the case on the weekends, every Sunday night, just as we're doing now. There's a couple of things I just wanted to go over to clear the air for those who might be interested. One of the big rumors about Sean Diddy Combs is that he was homosexual. When in court, it came out that he wasn't. So just for the record, I'm going over what happened, what came out in court, that he wasn't. There was no activity of the sort. Another big rumor that was in court or before court is that there were drugs being put into people's drinks, and some people even said there were drugs in the baby oil. It came out in court that that was not the case. No drugs in the baby oil. Calvin, why do you think that we have so many lies being spread through the media? Not to say bad things didn't happen, but why are people adding all these whistles and bells?
Man, because you know how the general public is. They want to believe the Illuminati stuff. It's more sexy to say that Diddy was gay and there were drugs being slipped in the baby oil and drugs being slipped in the drinks. People who are not involved in those lifestyles or those circles, a lot of them believe that stuff that goes on, right? And a lot of people want to believe the worst about folks. And then I'm going to touch on something else, especially when somebody of color gets to a certain level. It can never be on their ability or their shrewdness. It always has to be, he got there because of the Illuminati. He got there because he did this and them people did that. And so people love to believe the worst in folks when they raise to certain limits and levels. And I try to explain to people, we grew up in hip hop, right? You're a New York guy. I grew up in hip hop listening to Mr. Combs. I watched his rise. I understand who he's connected to, and I understand music, right? So when you talk about Mr. Combs is connected to people like Andre Harrell, who ran Motown Records, who was responsible for Jodeci, Mary J. Blige, who actually played a part in the Crush Groove movie, believe it or not. Andre Harrell was in Crush Groove. Like, people got to understand, like, he was involved in that project in some shape, form, or fashion. So he's been in the music industry a long time, and Mr. Combs had ties to him. Mr. Combs had ties to Clive Davis, who with his Bad Boy Records imprint. Mr. Combs had ties to a guy named Clarence Avant, who they call the Godfather of Soul. And so Mr. Combs worked a lot of relationships. He worked a lot of different situations to be able to get to where he's at. And so in our community, sometimes when a person gets to that level, we always want to believe that they got there by doing something nefarious. And I'm not saying that Mr. Combs didn't do anything nefarious along the way, but he played the game and he understood the game, and he played himself into a position to where he ended up being a billionaire. And so at the end of the day, whether you like Mr. Combs or not, you got to give him the credit for doing that.
I mean, they even came out with videos about Meek Mill trying to say that was his voice being with God. Diddy. It was just terrible.
Oh man,
right?
It was sick, man. It was sick, and I was like, man, that's some crazy stuff. And then to have that stuff come out, and then as a person, sometimes you have nothing that you can do about it. And I think with that being said, you know, there's a lot of proclivities that people get involved in when you get to that level sometimes. And so I think that there's a lot of stuff you don't know about a lot of people, but to throw some of these rumors around, it wasn't right, man. It was straight up diabolical at times, you know? And they were able to come up with these fake videos, and oh my God, we're not going to get into Jaguar Wright and some of the craziness that she was saying. And I just go like, wow, man, you know, these folks are willing to do and say anything.
All right. Mashona says, Calvin, do you believe anything that Keefe D is supposedly say about Diddy? What are your thoughts on the lady that says she was a minor? I think her husband or ex-husband is a hockey player.
I don't know about that stuff, because I think that would have came out. And when it comes to Keefe D, I definitely have an understanding that I'm not saying that he is with Keefe D. I think he's lying about a lot of stuff, but I think there is some truth into some of the stuff he says. I don't know if there's truth about some of the craziness, sexual stuff that he said, if he said any of that. But I definitely understand that there is a connection between probably Mr. Combs and the Crips and Los Angeles Crips and Mr. Combs, because Mr. Combs lived in LA and Mr. Combs had to spend a lot of time in Cali. And with Suds and the Bloods out there, you had to have some kind of connection to the Crips to be able to keep the Bloods off your, you know what? Let me just be honest. People don't understand the streets like I understand the streets, right? If I'm Mr. Combs and I got this Blood guy who hates my guts, who might send his people at me at any time, I'm going to pair up with his rivals. I'm a rich man. I'm going to pair up with his rivals. I'm going to make sure that I'm protected by the people that he's rivals with, so that they won't try anything. That's just smart business.
Okay, very good. I was on Tasha K recently, and there was a caller that called in, and she had expressed how Jane Doe, she had walked off the stage and she hugged the prosecutors, and then she hugged the defense, Tenny Garagos, right? I think I had told you about that, you know, closer to when it happened, when we were covering the trial. A lot of people were shocked. They thought I was lying, you know, or the girl was lying, and I confirmed that this really happened when she left the stage at the stand. She did that. Have you ever seen that happen before?
I've seen it happen. People, I don't think you should be doing it, but I think people don't understand, man. A lot of this stuff is very emotional. A lot of this stuff is very emotional. When you watch people go through something like this, man, it can be very, very emotional. This thing of stuff happening in somebody's life, and it's just like, you know, it's a television show. No, it's not a television show, man. People live through this stuff. I don't think it's appropriate to give those hugs out. I remember there was a judge in Dallas that gave a defendant a hug at the end of something, and I don't think that was appropriate. Wouldn't do it. But at the same time, I think people don't understand the emotional toll it takes on people when they go to trial. You know, I think you got to be extremely careful with that.
Okay, Lee Hiller says we sound too white,
and that's another thing. You know, that's a conversation that I want to have today, right? So people go like, "Oh, you sound too white." And listen, let me tell you something. The race game played by our people has been played by the Republicans, have been played by the Democrats. Man, there's no thing the sense of sounding white. It's a situation upon which I'm gonna call a spade, right? And we got to be extremely careful. I'll give you an example. We have a mayor here in Dallas, for the most part, that, man, people voted him in because he was a black man, right? He's a black man. And people trusted him. He said he was a Democrat. He's a black man. He'd been a Democrat for the most part of his life. He got in there and completely pulled the switcheroo on the whole city. And people are pissed off about it. But to be honest with you, they got him in there by saying, oh, he's your brother, let a brother in. He's one of the second black mayor of Dallas. We need to vote for him. I mean, he's unanimous. Get him in there. We got to quit playing this game of playing identity politics, and this sounds white and this sounds black. Man, listen, we independently think for ourselves, regardless of what color we are. For the most part, I'm going to understand the struggles of being a black man because I'm a black man and I live it. But there's some times where I'm going like, hey, man, I get what y'all are saying, man, but we need to take a different route. We got to be more careful with that. You know what I'm saying? So that's just what it is, And then we have a lot of people that think that, sounding educated is sounding white. One of the people made a comment. I want to go to Sonia Allen. Sounding educated sounds white. That's another thing we got a problem with. Just because somebody's been educated, it's not you're sounding white. You're sounding like you got some damn sense. You're sounding like you're logical. And why is everything got to be about race when it comes to certain situations? There's just as a human being, I want certain things to happen. And then let's keep it real. All skin folk ain't kinfolk. We talk about that all the time. So there's going to be some positions that I take that maybe a lot of black people won't take, but I'm going to take them because I'm a logical thinker. And I don't just go and let one group decide what direction and I'm going to go into based on the way they think. Nah, I got mine on my own. So we got to start thinking about that when we start thinking about some of our issues.
Right. Getting back to the Diddy case, there were times in the trial. I'll give you an example. There's the main video on the first day of trial they showed, and they slowed it down, him kicking her on the ground, all of that. But Dawn Rashard, she had broke down how Diddy was punching Cassie in the stomach, punching her in the head. I mean, it was terrible. The whole courtroom was completely silent. And I felt like there were other issues with drugs and so forth and guns that had they charged him properly, he would have gotten a long time in jail. Mm-hmm. But I think they tried to just give him a blanket of a RICO, and that's the reason why he was able to get off with the time that he did, right? Do you think that that's a true assumption or no?
I think it is. Remember, we had this conversation. I said, man, everybody just doesn't believe in what the government says automatically, right? Because I think when it comes to let's take MAGA for example. Some of those MAGA folks think that the government, sometimes the government be doing too much. Sometimes the government, what they call it, I don't know what they call it, a dark web or dark money and this and that. They think the government sometimes is doing too much and they're doing a lot of things that they should not be doing. So when you have a jury, just because Mr. Combs is black and you got a white jury does not mean that they're going to automatically go, oh, as a black man, he's guilty. No, they're going to be looking at the government like, hey, y'all got to prove your case. Y'all got a lot of power. Did y'all charge him properly? Do you have the evidence to prove that this happened? Is this a RICO? Or is he just a freak dealing with a bunch of other freaks doing a bunch of freaky stuff? Like, is this a RICO because of that? Or is it a RICO because the government has all these power and resources and they want to go after this man? See, I said that to you, and I said, don't be surprised if this group of folk come back and say, no, I don't know if that's a RICO. Did he do some things wrong? Yeah. Was he wrong to hit Cassie and kick Cassie? Yeah. Was he wrong to bring these people from this place and that place and be able to do all this stuff? He shouldn't have been doing that. But is that a RICO? The jury said no. And I said some of that as we were having that discussion. I said, that's a real possibility that the jury could look at this and say, no. But I felt like they would convict him of something because of that Cassie video. And I tried to tell those knuckleheads that came onto our channel trying to say, oh, this ain't about Cassie, this ain't about that. But once you get the visual right of that happening, they were not just going to let him walk. They were not going to. They were going to find him guilty of something, and they found him guilty of some misdemeanors. And like I said before, people were like, oh, people that get convicted of this, they do 18 to 24 months, sometimes 12 months, sometimes they get time served. I was like, man, this guy's not getting time served based on you being in trial every day. You're telling me the disposition of the judge. You sitting there listening to the trial every day. All the additional information that you gave me week to week that we briefed and we viewed. I said, this guy's going to get between 51 and 63 months. And what did he get? 50. And some knucklehead said he's going to get 12 months time served and a year of supervised release. I knew he was going to get the 50 months and 3 to 5 years of supervised release. What did he get? 5 years of supervised release or 3 years of supervised release? I'm basically right. I basically was off by 1 month.
And the guy that came on, he bet you $1,000. Have you heard from him?
No, man, he don't even want to talk to me anymore, man. I've tried to go on his channel. Sean G, by the way, if everybody want to know, like he's Sean G. You spell it SEANG. So if you see a guy on YouTube spelled Sean G, SEANG, if he's giving legal advice, don't listen to him. He's very faulty. Don't follow that. And it's nothing against him. I'm just being honest with you. If you listen to legal advice like that, it's not very grounded and by any lawyer. He's just pulling numbers and information out of the sky and applying it. And he bet me $1,000, and I didn't want to take his money. I started to take it, but I doubt if he'd have paid me, and then we would have had a bigger problem. So in any event, once again, you got to understand when you get legal advice. That's why Mel has a real practicing 25-year attorney on his show that does federal legal work, because I'm a federal lawyer. Being a federal lawyer means I'm going to give you better advice than somebody who made a bad decision in their life and ended up going to the feds because of it. So you can go and get your information from them or information from a real lawyer like myself. Well,
he felt that he knew better because he went through the system.
You know what? You got guys that do that, and I think it's indicative of this. And this is what I typically tell you. Guys like that go through the system, they probably didn't listen to their lawyer when they went through the system. And it's usually the reason why they got time. A lot of these guys blame their lawyers for the time that they get when they go to prison. They don't blame themselves. They don't blame the fact that they made a bad and conscious decision to commit a crime to the point where they got federally charged. All of a sudden, it's the lawyer's fault that they went to jail, not their decision making. And I tell people this all the time. And this is why I cut people no break when it comes to this. I come from a rough community. Drugs were everywhere. If I wanted to sell drugs, try drugs, do drugs, make a lot of money, I could have done that if I wanted to. But I made the conscious decision to avoid that. I was not going to let the government trick me into doing something, or I would say trick me out of my position, right? What I decided to do is I looked at the whole game. I decided to avoid doing drugs, selling drugs, trying to make money off drugs, trying to make money in the streets. And I took my butt to school. I got it the old-fashioned way, and I avoided all that. I did the smart thing. I became a lawyer, and this is what I do. So when I look at somebody like a Sean G or somebody who made those wrong decisions, and then they try to come tell me what I don't get to do, no, you don't get to do. You were the one who got tricked out your position. I didn't. I didn't get tricked out of my position. I saw the game. And when I saw the game, I mastered it by not allowing those people to trick me out of my position. I did the right thing. I became a lawyer, and I didn't go to prison so I could be here to take care of my family, be an example for others. Not because I went and did time, and nothing against people who made those decisions and they went and did time. I feel sorry for them. Some people had different situations. But I decided, based on what I saw in my community, that I wasn't going to do that. So if I did it, everybody else, they should think about doing it too.
Ghostface says life is about choices.
It is. And that's the whole thing, right? So I could have went on that brother that day. And I'll give you an example of how I could have went in. He made some very bad choices in his life to the point where he ends up going to the feds for a charge, doing time, having to get out and then talk about his experiences in the feds. I had the same opportunity to make those same bad choices he made. I grew up in South Dallas, Dixon Circle. First Crip set in the city in Dallas was in my neighborhood. I knew people who got dope straight from California. If I wanted to go in and start selling drugs and get tricked out of my position, I had every opportunity to. But I made better choices. And since I made those better choices, I get to come on YouTube and give people legal advice about federal cases. That's why I'm able to do what I'm doing. That's how I'm able to come on here and work with people like Mel Smith, who went to the Diddy trial every day. That's why I give great legal advice. And so that's what I'm about.
And also I'm going to be going to, what's his name, Carmelo Anthony's case every day. And also Luigi Mangione. He's the young fellow that shot the CEO of United Healthcare, I believe, right?
Yes, man, that's going to be great. That's going to be a great case. Carmelo Anthony is going to be great because I actually know the judge that's doing that case. I actually did a little work for him out of law school. I know Mike Howard, the attorney for Carmelo Anthony. I actually did a capital murder case with him before about 7, 8, 9 years ago. I was part of a 4-man team working with Mr. Mike Howard. Shout out to Mike. But it's going to be pretty interesting to see what happens.
Yeah. Could you just tell them a little bit about the Carmelo case for those who may not have heard about it?
The Carmelo Anthony case. He's not the basketball player. It's a Carmelo spelled with a K, right? So this young man got into it with another young man. They're both high school students. He was sitting in a tent. It was raining outside. The white kid told the black kid, "You don't belong over here. This is not your school. This is not your school's tent." The black kid challenged me, touch me and see what happens. The white kid touches him. The black kid pulls a knife from his bag, stabs the kid in the chest, happens to hit a artery in his chest. Kid bleeds out and dies. Black kid claims self-defense, and all hell breaks loose with the things out in McKinney, Texas, out at a track meet. They were at a track meet sitting on a tent while it was raining. And then you got black folks and white folks going at each other. And there were accusations that Carmelo was being bullied, and they already had issues before the time they were in the tent. And there was all of this stuff that was out there. And so you have a situation where you got some black folks that believe, hey, once somebody touches you, it's self-defense. You can do what you got to do. You got some white folks that are saying, hey, I can understand self-defense, but you can't stab somebody in the heart and kill them because they touch you. And then there's some folks that say, we really don't know what happened in the tent. And so it's going to be extremely interesting. You're allowed to defend yourself if somebody puts their hands on you. But I think Texas law is going to say that you can't kill somebody just because they put their hands on you, depending on the situation. But like I said, without people testifying, we don't know all the facts. And if there was more in that tent that was going on, then we're going to try to find out.
All right. So, guys, we do this every week at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and also at 7 o'clock. What is it? Your way, Calvin?
Texas time. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. So, guys, please tune in next week at the same time. Calvin, before we break down the last couple of minutes, could you just tell us what your thoughts are as to why David hasn't been pulled in for the what happened to this girl? What's her name? Celeste?
I think they're going to try to make sure they got a lock-tight case, right? And I think that they were trying to do their investigation as much as they can. Sometimes they'll leave you out there because they're gathering information. People like him, sometimes when there's something has happened, you'll start talking. You'll start using your phone to talk to people. You'll start trying to hide evidence. You'll try to start, hey, trying to lock things in, right? So that's what you got to really, really think about. So this may be something that is that is strategic, but I think they're going to pull this guy in because, man, this looks bad, and people don't understand the case. This guy David is allegedly a singer. He was dating an underage woman that was like 16 years old, and she ended up been dead in the back of his Tesla or car that he was touring in, or Tesla that he owned. And she came up missing, and there were talks about songs with him that involved death and dating and loving, and kind of sounded like he was talking about her, and she ended up dead, and nobody knows how it was done. And so there's an investigation going on trying to figure out who did it.
All right. Very good. Very good. So thank you guys for tuning in. Definitely. I appreciate everyone. This week, we'll be covering the hot topics at noon to cover the top stories that everybody wants to hear about. And thank you kindly. Calvin, you want to take us home?
One more thing. Me and Mel are thinking about doing one produced show during the week, in the middle of the week, and then doing the weekly legal review, where on Sundays at 7 p.m. Texas time, 8 p.m. New York time, where you come in and you get to come upstage. So we're thinking about providing more content on the weekly legal review, and we're probably going to start eventually doing a one produced show that's about an hour during the week to give people some tips, and then maybe to even kind of tease on what we're going to start talking about on Sunday. So please support this channel. Continue to support Mel. Mel has a great channel, great show. Shout out to my girl, DJ Genesis. She will be probably with us on the next show as a guest contributor. So shout out to her, DJ Genesis Detroit, as well as Watching the World 777. But once again, this is the weekly legal review. And me and Mel are probably going to start doing one produced show during the week, and then a Sunday weekly legal review where we have people come up and comment doing it live. And so continue to support this channel. Once again, we're on every Sunday, 7 p.m. Texas time, 8 p.m. New York time, weekly legal review with Mel Smith and attorney, yours truly, Calvin D. Johnson. Thank you and goodbye.
Different voices, but the same song. Building a world where we all belong. Kindness leading the way, breaking the chains. In the symphony of love, the thing remains. Embracing diversity, brighter days in sight. Watching the world sharing love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. Colors of harmony, painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might. Watching the world sharing love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. The colors of harmony, painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might.